Welcome to our LiveView Virtual Learning Academy program. Today's presentation is on combating isolation. We're very thankful to have Dr. Murthy Gokula here today from Concierge Connected Care to share information on combating isolation. Welcome, Dr. Gokula.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you all for joining me in this journey virtually. And just bear with me. I'm trying presentation. I don't know what happened. Okay. So yeah, can you all see my screen now?
Yes.
Yep. So I'm Dr. Gokula. I have a concierge practice on Lasky Road, and I used to work at UTMC. Now I'm a family physician and a geriatric specialist, and recently I got board certified in lifestyle medicine, which is predominantly about giving healthcare and not just sick care. I've been a geriatrics doctor for 17 years, but I always felt, how do I reverse the diseases? How do I reverse some of the issues that older adults face? And here I have the answer, wherein if you address the 6 pillars, like the exercise, the nutrition, the stress management, sleep, addictions, and social relationships, then you will actually bring back health into your life. And of all the 6 pillars in lifestyle medicine, the most important is social relationships. And studies have shown if you address the social relationships well, and I'll give you a one-page flyer from American College of Lifestyle Medicine, which will talk about why social well-being is so important and why social well-being actually promotes your health and your longevity. So the person who is socially interactive is the one that's going to live long. It's not the pills that you're taking, it's not the surgeries that you're undergoing, it's not the good stuff by giving yourself Botox that you look young is going to kind of come to your rescue. It's always the social interactions that's going to trump everything else when compared to the 6 other pillars that I'm talking about. So I wanted to kind of talk to you about what happens in the United States. I did not prepare this PowerPoint. It's done by the Aging Center, Institute of Aging in San Francisco, and they have a hotline, and I'm glad that they have it. A couple of years ago, we didn't have any national policy as to how we combat social isolation. If you go to United Kingdom, they actually have a hotline that people can call anytime, and then there'll be somebody to talk to. And studies have shown clearly that people also have isolation as a cause that causes increased ER visits and hospitalizations. So if you look at United States, the number of people living alone in 2010 was 29 million, and there's a 30% increase in 80, and now I can say that it must have gone up to 50%. Some researchers found that despite the social interaction, I can see that people move to assisted living and independent living, but they still are stuck in their own ways and not interacting. So what is actually a social interaction? Social interaction is not having a food with your group of people or having a little click with your own group of people. Social interaction is all about how do you interact on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, on a minute by minute basis, the people that you see, what you do. So if you remember the good old days, we used to stop by, talk to the other person, how they're doing, how is their family, what happened, and we used to be interested in each other. Now we are more interested in ourselves, and we are constantly running the rat race. And with the social media, it's even worse. And now with COVID, it's been a disaster. And so the important thing is to come together, even every person you meet, smile and say positive things, have a gratitude journal. And if you do all these things on a daily basis, then your positivity, that energy will make things different. And if you look at this is in the number of people in San Francisco, but I'm sure we have our own statistics. So we as human beings are social animals. And if you look at when human beings started the evolution, you see that people came together and we all kind of grouped together with the people who we associate with or who we agree with, uh, and then who look like us, who have the same culture. So at the same time, when when we kind of do this at a bigger scale, that we are looking at, that's why spirituality trumps everything, because when you look at spiritual beings, they think that we are all one. We all have that fundamental principle that the world is one family. And if you don't have that concept, and if you're trying to kind of stick into your own little group, then sometimes it can lead to a lot of loneliness, because you may not have uh, the right people around. And it's always important, because if you're too lonely, it can result in depression. And so what happens is, the interpersonal relationships need to be increasing. And there are areas in the world called blue zones. It was a study that was published by National Geographic, Dan Buettner. You can buy that book. He created a diet. There is a website called Blue Zones. And if you look at those people, one of the common themes were they were all poor, they all walked, they all ate plant-based diet. And the most important thing was, in their cultures, they actually had a group that they were assigned, and they connected together, and every day they met and they had fun. Even if it means for even an hour, they all met, had exchanged greetings, food, whatever, and then it was very satisfying. So so loneliness is the worst emotional experience imaginable. And then it's and then it causes isolation and low self-esteem. And the thing is, it's the longing and the emptiness that we have, and then the emotional attachment and the social ties. I often see people that they cling on to their past, and then uh, try to have their life impacted by what had happened in the past, in their families, in their cousins, and they keep grudges and they don't let things go, and until their end of life, that they are kind of trying to. So the and I don't want to make this like I'm sounding like a pastor or a religious talk, but if you look at the good Lord, Jesus always said forgive, because forgiveness gives a lot of room for empathy and togetherness and how you connect with others. And for us growing up in India, we had this principle called my world, my family. The world is my family. So even here, when I'm practicing medicine, I always uh, do that. Everybody is my family. When I'm interacting with everybody, how do I treat my family? And that's what matters. And it's good to see that we continue to kind of have that sense of community and neighborhood. Uh, and then, some people think, I've seen people who have a lot of money, they're always lonely. They don't know what to do with their time. And it's good to have your own time and solitude wherein you meditate, you read, you do things that you like. But most of the times, your loneliness actually has shown that it is very subjective and it's a personal feeling. But then when you are encountered in a situation, and if you feel vulnerable and you're anxious, then that can cause leading to depression, use of drugs, higher blood pressure. So the best way to combat is, the first thing what Wood County of Aging is doing, like educating people, bringing people together, trying to have connections. But again, when you're looking at the same old people all the time is not the way you socially connect. You need to reach out to people who don't look like you, who don't sound like you, who don't feel like you. And then you can always have a good debate and healthy debate, have that positive attitude. And people have said, to the point that Weiss said, that can be described as a gnawing chronic disease without redeeming features, and has a strong correlate of depressive symptoms. So why people get depression? When you're lonely, what happens is, when you're lonely, your stress level increases. When your stress level increases, your there are called, we call them hormones in the body. They kind of go up, the stress hormones, and when they go up, they cause damage and cause inflammation. When you have inflammation, your gut changes, your second brain. You have gut leakage, and then that causes brain symptoms. Your gut brain axis is very well researched. Your gut determines your brain. So that's why plant-based diet people, and then who are social connections, they live longer, who exercise every day. And that isolates depression. I mean, if you're lonely and you say, you know what, I don't want to deal with people, what my suggestion is, go out into nature. We have a park every 5 miles, and then you go and you talk to people there, and then you walk in the woods. Studies have shown that your anxiety and depression dramatically decreases. And in United Kingdom, the government actually has approved in Scotland that people can go to nature's walk for an hour, and you can, and that's a prescription from a doctor, and people have to honor it, whether it's a workplace, whether anybody. And now the spring is coming. This is a good time to make that resolution that you're going to walk 30 to 60 minutes every single day. And that helps you with not only your anxiety, depression, helps you with your health. And movement is medicine, and that combats loneliness and social isolation. So sometimes, living together, loneliness is also there. We know that people who have been married for a long time, and they become like roommates. And it's shown that more than a quarter of married people, and majority of them are female, suffer from living together loneliness. So, and the point is, it's the communication again. And it's what you expect and what you have achieved in this relationship. And sometimes you don't want to kind of invest into that relationship, and you may feel like, okay, let him do what he wants to do, and I'll do what I want to do. And then you kind of make that. So if you're doing that, I think sometimes what you should do is to kind of separate yourself for a while, go for a vacation to two different places. And then what happens is, absence makes the heart grow fonder. And sometimes that helps in, when you come back, you kind of figure out uh, that how you have lost. And being together, you don't understand. I mean, uh, my wife and I married for like almost, we know each other for 36 years and married for more than 26 years. She was my classmate. And I can relate to this because she's a doctor and she's busy. I'm busy. We have kids and we're running together in our own lives. I'm 53 years old. So, but we don't have enough time to sit. So now she's gone to India. Now I'm actually feeling her absence. So now when she comes back, I think it improves what we're going through. And then that's one way that you can combat some of those loneliness. And I think Shelley can talk more about that, how it manifests with human behavior. Hawkins proposed that there are isolation, connectedness, and belongingness. And when you're lonely, people tend to go into alcoholism. And I have seen a lot of older adults resort to this, and suicide. And homicide is one of the growing problems in older adults in our country. And that's all related to social isolation. And they're more pessimistic, low positive effect, and they're more likely to be shy and less satisfied in life. So the point I'm trying to make it is, you have one life, and one thing that's constant is that you're going to be born and you're going to die. It doesn't matter who you are as a human being. And there is no research or studies that have been done wherein people did not die who are born on this earth. So the point I'm trying to come across is, if you have a finite amount of time on this earth, make use of it and have fun with it, because yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, today is a gift. And that's why it's called the present. So live in the present, live each day that there is no other day. And once you start doing that, And even I do in behavior change, asking people, if you had only 5 days to live, what are the things that you're going to do? And they write down and they'll say, go do those things. Because we postpone, and then we think it's okay, and we have so many. So if you're starting to live in the moment, and then you appreciate all the gifts that God has given you, and then you start having that positive effect. And they have done a research study wherein they took dying people. These are all hospice patients. They were put in a happy neighborhood, and some of them were put in just regular neighborhood. The people who were in the happy neighborhood lived longer, despite having the same diagnosis, same prognosis. Everybody were supposed to die in the next month, and these people were just put in the happy neighborhoods. So that's what the power of being positive, having the gratitude journal, trying to reach out to people, let go of all your past and your grudges. There is no point, because this all increases the stress, and then again causes inflammation and causes all your aches, fatigues, tiredness, all these problems, sleeplessness. So, and we all experience this during our lifetime, because our kids are away, and then including me, I'm here in the United States. My parents are in UAE. They're going to move back to India. They just retired. So it's very hard to kind of address these things. But what happens is that you create your own community, and that's the beauty of United States, that we have neighborhoods, we have community, we have church, and we kind of try to kind of have our own. But again, it's always trying to reach out to the people who you don't know and try to do things, and then give. When you start giving, and yourself, at least after you retire, you have a lot of wisdom and knowledge, and if you start giving yourself, then you'll receive, and you'll never be lonely. So it's been a public health issue, and it impacts the quality of life. So why am I so passionate about loneliness, and why social isolation impacts longevity, is because it in geriatrics, all I do is to improve your function and quality of life. And in our country, it's becoming an epidemic, and because it incorporates the entire self, and it's like very we have that awareness of oneself and how one is situated in the world. uh, so the point I'm trying to make is that when you feel that, the best thing is to reach out. I don't know how many physicians will address this social isolation, but for me, geriatrics, I constantly uh, keep helping people to engage. During pandemic, one of the things that you can do is you can do virtual meetings like this if you can't, or you can do outdoor meetings now, since we all have been vaccinated, or you can visit virtual. I'll send Daniel a list of activities that uh, the American Medical Directors Association has created, wherein you all can go and do virtual museums, virtual zoo visits. And so it's important to find other ways uh, to help yourself. And so Ebersole and Hess said that it's a response to conditions that inhibit ability or opportunity to interact with others, or is a result of the desire not to interact. And isolation increases vulnerability to disease, suicide, and death. And it can occur as a result of age, race, culture, frailty, poverty, appearance, sexual orientation, or stereotypical thinking. So so when you have loneliness, you have very high risk of socialization. And then it can have many causes and defining characteristics, but the absence of supportive significant others, lacking purpose or challenges, aloneness imposed by others, withdrawal because of hearing deficits, feeling of rejection, limited mobility, vision impairment. These are all causes of social isolation. And because there'll be changes in environmental structures, loss of family or friends, and inability to perform certain activities. So I always say aging must not be thought of as an inevitability to death. What I say is aging is an opportunity to understand what you can do at every age of your life, and you should be adapting all the time to improve your function and quality of life. And how do you do that? I can send a manual for you guys, wherein I'm just learning about lifestyle medicine and the 6 pillars. How do you incorporate that? And how do you change your diet? How do you exercise? How do you kind of give up some of your addictions? And how do you kind of bring social togetherness? and you guys can more than welcome to use that. So people think that we as a society, we want to be independent. We don't want to reach out to live with our children because we think we're going to interfere in their life. But the point I'm trying to tell you is that if you can engage yourself, have a schedule, engage with your family, engage with your friends, engage with neighbors, engage with strangers, and trying to do that. I'm not trying to say that you go off the hook and reach out to people in dangerous neighborhoods. I'm just saying you could go to another older adult uh, in Wood County and see what they're doing and how they're doing. So you have emotional isolation, and needs involves needing some affiliation, degree of independence, and self-concept issues. And some people feel lonely through ostracism, social exclusion, or bereavement, feels threatened, anxious, and dysphoric emotional states that promote attempts to reconnect for relief from their negative affect. So isolation is just not loneliness or social isolation. You can emotionally have isolation, and then again depression. So if you don't express, then it kind of triggers withdrawals, and it's always good that you reach out to people. And Shelley would be a great person to talk to because she does very cool techniques like EMDR, which is she's going to talk about, and cognitive behavioral therapy, and then treat your anxiety and depression. And then you should always have your solitude time. I'm not saying that, but there's a difference between that. So stop building walls about around yourself. Don't be afraid being judged, because the good Lord says, uh, "Don't judge not, ye will be judged." And uh, and then there is nothing like, okay, I'm retired, I don't have friends, I can't go to work. You can always volunteer and be busy. You can always engage in a new activity. I'm going to give you a tip here. If you start learning new things every 6 months, your risk of depression dramatically decreases. Your risk of dementia dramatically decreases. So why not engage in self? So, like for example, AARP has a program called Staying Sharp. It's a program that you all can join, and it's on the computer. If you don't know how to use it, I'm sure Wood County has some facility of how to teach people to use computers. And then you engage in those activities, you learn a new thing, every 3 months or 6 months, learn a new thing. Because studies have shown in Europe that if people engage to learn new things that they have never done before, including even simply writing your name with your left hand if you're a right hander, or a right hand if you're left hander, improves your memory. And the reason is, it's called neuroplasticity. What happens when you do things that you're not used to is that new connections form in the brain, and you become a better person, and your dementia gets better, and your depression and all isolation gets better. This is all the research that I've done, uh, and we have tools that we can utilize. You guys can Google. I'll share this presentation, UCLA loneliness scale, and you measure, and based on that, you kind of follow people, and they're followed, and they've specifically identified people who are lonely and depressed. And uh, once they're depressed, the thing is that you uh, you kind of have to create a schedule for yourself and how you're going to engage. And then this study, Anne Lamott in Stitches writes, daily rituals, especially walks, even forced marches around the neighborhood, and schedules whether you work on meals, and spend some time with non-awful people, can be knots you hold on to, whether you've run out of rope. So it's very important that you understand, if you feel lonely, like fatigue, anxiety, tension, withdrawal, you're restless or uneasy, uncomfortable, they may choose to stay home, go back to bed, or sleep. I have a lady, I tried my best and it's so hard. And uh, she keeps a grudge on the son who does so much for her, but still nothing's enough. And I kind of tried several things, including sending a person and trying to send a person, but at the same time, it's hard. You can only take a horse to the water, but you can't make them drink. And that's in my clinic. That's the reason my tagline is, patient is the boss, doctor is the coach. I can only coach people. And if I can't do it, I'll send patients to Shelley. And so what I can do is to kind of, or you can do in Wood County, is use that scale, ask about loneliness, spend time with the person, and keeping contact with important people. I always tell people that ask your grandson to find all your people on Facebook that you went to school, in middle school, high school, and then get their numbers, contacts, reach out to them. Try to reach out to one new person whom you went to school with or worked with, and reach out and talk to them or go meet them, and you'll be surprised how much you can mitigate your loneliness, and start initiating contacts, and don't cling on to just few people. Try to kind of reach out to other people. You can reach out by telephone, you can reach out to see if you can do other things for them, and then if they have losses, which is very common in elderly, empathize and suffering. And what you do is ease your way to social connection, is extend yourself to others, which is service to others is service to the Lord. Create a plan, and then the solution is not quantity but quality of relationships, and expect the best. We have more control over our thoughts than what we think. So the way I always tell my patients is that when you start giving, I always tell, why is all the spiritual people in this world remembered after thousands of years? For example, if you take Jesus or Buddha or other people who are remembered, it's because they gave love. So when you give yourself to others, then a lot of things start. And this is a poem I thought was pretty cool. Once upon a time in September, when springtime's tender blooms burst forth, the joyous poet did write a tale to remember of brilliant colors, softest perfumes, birds in flight, wondrous light. When morning came, the poet awoke to feel the prison chains of truth, to find that he had been dreaming of former days of youth. Health and strength now gone. The old man weeps. No one sees his tears fall. So the point I'm trying to make is stop yourself with trying to have self-pity and trying to think that you can't uh, do this and you need somebody else to do it for you. And can you guys see this lifestyle medicine 6 pillars?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to kind of do this quickly. If you see the 6 pillars: physical activity, healthful eatings, avoiding risky substances, sleep. I'm going to share this. You guys can read this. How do you take control of your health, and what do you do? These are one-page activities: nutrition, and then lifestyle, sleep, health, and then lifestyle, social connections. And it's the single most important predictor of human happiness and long life. And read the Blue Zones book, volunteer, connect with the community resource center, find online or community groups that have same interests, like meetup.com, Facebook, join a religious or spiritual groups, help a local animal shelter, or adopt a pet to connect with other animal lovers, go to a local sports event, music performance, lecture or art display, help organize community events, join a steering committee or board, attend community celebrations like parades or walks, take a course at your local library or community college, ask your employer for ways to increase social connections, and these are some of the ways that you can this resources are meetup.com that you can find your interest, purposebuiltfamilies.com, and then strengthen your social connections. And we always say, be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time connected. So when you say specific, it's like, what are you going to do to improve feelings of connectedness? How much time, how many sessions? You write this down. These are smart goals, and you make a plan and you start implementing it. Attainable, do you have what it takes to follow through? Realistic, what can you do actually? Improvement over perfection. How frequently, how long will you commit? So my point is, this can all be done. And if you have trouble, I have Shelley. So here Shelley goes, who can help me implement all these smart goals in real life.
Thank you, Dr. Gokula. I just wanted to add just a couple little points to your great presentation. The Institute on Aging has a friendship line that is free, and anyone can call there if they're feeling sad, lonely, and it's 1-800-971-0016, and it's for emergency or non-emergency situations. So once again, that's the friendship line. So that's available toll free for anyone who's looking for just someone to talk to if they have no one around. As well, we have our Zoom listening hours that are available for anyone as well. So we are working with the Wood County Community Health Center, and we have a therapist that comes on the first Tuesday of each month at 2 p.m. And it's just basically to support our fears, our concerns, and just kind of lend an ear and a voice when needed. So just wanted to share those little added resources as well.
Thank you. And I'll share my presentation and the manual that I created for my patients, and you can distribute that. And they're all resources from
Perfect.
American
Thank you.
College of Lifestyle Medicine.
Perfect. Yes, thank you so much. And at this time, we're going to allow Shelley Horine to share her information with us. Welcome, Shelley.
All right, I'm going to try to share my screen here. So you can see that.
Yes.
I had a little trouble this morning, so hopefully we're doing good here. A little bit about myself. I have been a counselor about 7.5 years. I was actually a police officer before that for 21 years. And a lot of people ask me, how did you go from police work to becoming a counselor? And towards the end of my police career, I actually helped Wood County by pushing, I guess, as a law enforcement perspective, to get police officers trained in mental health. I realized that what happened is a lot of times we were going to these calls and there were mental health crises. They weren't kids that were, or adults that were in trouble, like they weren't causing trouble on purpose. They may have had a mental health issue that the police officers weren't recognizing. Once I got involved in that program more and more, I decided, I really enjoyed psychology and wanted to help even farther. And so then I started to work on my master's degree and got involved in that way. I'm very passionate about first responders and military. I also was in the military for 7 years with the 180th here in Toledo, Ohio. So I bring a wealth of information to my clients. And I say that because I've been through it myself too. I was hurt back in 2016. I got hurt and went through some therapy myself, which helped a lot for the things that I needed help with. And so today I wanted to kind of share how can we combat the isolation with therapy. And we're going to talk about, how counseling can help with isolation. I know Dr. Gokula talked a lot about social interactions and trying to get out there and do those things. But I also know that I see a lot of clients that have difficulty doing that. And sometimes that is where I come in as a counselor, is trying to help with those things like social interaction or social feeling like we can't get out and talk to other people. How do you find the right counselor? I think it's really important that if we find the right counselor, we're going to feel like we can be open with them. We can feel comfortable with them. Because if we don't, then the therapy is not going to help. What different types of therapy can maybe help with depression and anxiety? Because that's, when we feel socially isolated, it is hard to get out and get to know each other and do those things. Some of the therapy that we can do is cognitive behavior therapy. Another one is called internal family systems therapy. And then Dr. Gokula talked about EMDR, which is eye movement decentralization and reprocessing therapy. And then I'm just going to open up the floor for questions after that, if you have questions about the different types of therapy. So how do you find the right counselor? I always tell my clients, you're here to interview me. You need to be comfortable. It's about you and not me. And so do you feel comfortable discussing your concerns with your counselor? Usually the first couple sessions is going to feel awkward and uncomfortable. I try to explain to my clients, basically interview me, ask questions about me. I'm no different than you, or I put my pants on the same way that you do. And I have my own struggles, and feel free to ask about those, and I'm okay sharing those. Do you have a sense of safety with your counselor? Do you feel comfortable and safe? And that really comes back to your, like Dr. Gokula talked about, your gut is your second brain. I always, as a police officer, went with my gut, and your gut is telling you if you feel safe with that counselor or not. Did the counselor explain the counseling process? I go through a contract explaining what it's going to be like in counseling, because sometimes it's your first time ever being in counseling and it can be scary. And what does that process look like? And I try to explain all that and help you understand what it's going to be. Did they share and help and create the treatment plan with you? I always go with my clients and talk to them and have them go through what is their goals in counseling and what is it that they need help with, but we work as a team with that. And that it's not just me telling you what to do, what's best for you, but also having you part of that plan. Did you get to ask questions and felt that they were answered? So, I've been to counseling before in the past, and, counselors do the best they can, but sometimes there seems to be that distance in between. And we want to feel comfortable and be able to share those things, because social isolation can be difficult. Now we're coming into counseling via telehealth or being in the office since COVID, and it can be scary. So we need to just feel the sense of safety with our counselor and interview them. They are the ones that are going to be there to help you in the journey. It's kind of like what Dr. Gokula said, I'm not there to help you per se, like in the way of we're going to do it together. We're going to be part of that. I'm going to be part of that journey. I have the tools and you're going to work through those tools and work on them together. So how can counseling help with isolation? It's someone to talk about your isolation and getting your feelings validated. A lot of times we're told that just go out and try to meet other people. But honestly, it can be really difficult to do that and scary. And we need our feelings validated. We're really good at validating other people's feelings, but we're not really good at validating our own feelings. So we need to make sure that we're working on understanding that we're getting that feelings from our counselor, but also learning how do we validate our own. Discussing some possible coping skills to help with isolation. Dr. Gokula talked about different types of things that we can do for those coping skills, like walking and exercising, meditation, eating right. I believe that those are all important things to do, for sure. But there may be specific things that we want to look at that we want to do. Like with coping skills, I usually talk about what's called a mood chart, like understanding how our depression or anxiety is increasing from like 1 to a 10. And what are some of the things that we could add to help with that, to decrease that? So that might be some possibilities of discussing some ways to help with coping skills. And then of course, counseling can help decrease that anxiety or depression that you might feel. So what are the type of therapies? One of them is what's called cognitive behavior therapy. And this is what is typically called the talk therapy, which means that the counselor is going to help you with anxiety and depression by problem solving with the client. Like what are some of your triggers? What are the things that you might be scared about when going out and maybe trying to socialize? What is it that keeps you from not being able to get out of bed? Those things, maybe there's some trauma there. Maybe we're experiencing the isolation because we've had, like Dr. Gokula says, we've holding grudges, or other people are maybe upset with us and we're having trouble, and we start to create this negative belief. So that, the cognitive behavior therapy, we can talk about that and problem solving. We can explore, learn patterns of unhelpful behaviors, like are we using alcohol or drugs as a coping skill? Sometimes we get caught up in that. And when we get caught up in that, then it just becomes worse for us, because the alcohol and drugs then affect our body. And that doesn't help with our depression or anxiety. We're going to discuss and learn different types of coping skills, like I talked about before. And we're going to learn to develop a greater sense of confidence. So just, talking to a counselor, via telehealth or in person can be a helpful way to do that. And this is one type of therapy that can help. The next one that I would like to talk about is called internal family systems. It's another therapy that I also do. If you've ever watched Disney, The Inside Out, and you thought, hey, that's me, that's in our internal family systems we're talking about. So we're not just made up of parts of legs and arms and fingers and toes. We do have this parts. If you ever thought about it for a second, part of me wants to do this and part of me wants to do that, for example. So part of me wants to be very social, but part of me is really scared to be social. And internal family systems can help us get in touch with those different parts. We can actually work with those different parts within ourselves to kind of work with them, because we're actually already saying the part of me this and part of me that, and we can work with those parts to try to decrease those burdens. Because what is it that I am scared about, and talking about that and unburdening that, and that can help decrease my anxiety and depression as well. So we can feel like we've been heard, and then we can be harmonized, and then we can then feel like we are found by ourselves, which means our self can lead us and our parts can help protect us. That's a little bit about internal family systems. It's been around for about over 30 years, and it's more research and more research is showing that we within ourselves kind of have that family, and we need to work with that family of parts. And one of the last therapies that I work with or do is what's called EMDR. So eye movement decentralization reprocessing therapy. So this really was founded back in more than 30 years ago, really focused with veterans or military members, sexual assault victims who were experiencing traumas. And when the traumas occurred, cognitive behavior therapy, which also called cognitive processing therapy under that, would help you tell the story over and over and over and repeat that over and over and over to kind of decentralize that trauma. Although it still didn't get away, it didn't help us with the negative beliefs. Because if we think about it logically, so one of my parts, logically, I can say that I understand that this happened in the past, and I understand that what I went through was really bad. But on the other hand, I don't feel any different by talking about it over and over. So basically, Robert Schwartz said that he was looking at how can we process it differently, being the fact that when we go to bed at night, we go into what's called a REM sleep. And REM sleep helps us reset for the day. So that's why sleep is part of that pillar with Dr. Gokula. And it resets us for the day. Well, when a trauma occurs, we're not able to reset it. And what trauma are we going through right now? COVID. Everyone was in lockdown. It was scary. Nobody knew what was going to happen. We had to stay in our homes. We didn't go anywhere. And that became a trauma in itself. And so EMDR can help with even the trauma that is occurring today to help us to reprocess and basically decentralize what's happening. So this therapy uses eye movements like in REM sleep, except we're awake. And so basically we're using, in the picture that you see here, they use the fingers to basically have the person look at their eyes with their finger and watch, basically going back and forth to create that REM sleep, but you're actually awake, and you're bringing up that memory or bringing up that thing that's happening that's causing some anxiety or depression. And it helps you process through it and helps with that negative belief. It decreases that body sensation, that gut, as Dr. Gokula talked about earlier, because we look at not just the mental piece of it, but the physical part of it too. So we're decentralizing not only the memory or the thing that's distressing, but also the body. And using the eye movements can help in that way. And it's research-based, it's scientific. Feel free to go out and get this information. Again, I can share this slideshow as well, and you can look up more information about it. But it really helps clients take what I call the trauma that is here and bring it over to the side, knowing that it's happened, but also to the point that I can now not be so triggered by it, and I can also feel less stressed by it. I think the biggest thing to look here is when we become triggered, that triggers our anxiety then basically our enzymes, our gut enzymes then get overflowed, and then the other physical problems happen. And so this is why EMDR can be really effective, because it's helping us reset when our body maybe couldn't have done it at the time of the trauma. And lastly, if there's any questions, feel free to do that in the chat, or I guess Danielle said that we're going to have time to talk about if there's any other questions, and feel free to do that. But I thank you for listening, and I think that's it for me for right now. I will try to figure out how to stop sharing. All right.
Thank you so much, Shelley.
You're
I'm going to
welcome.
go ahead and allow anyone to either enter a question, or if they'd like to share, they can unmute themselves. So I'm just asking everyone to go ahead and unmute yourself. And we'll open the floor up to questions.
Was this show taped that we can watch it later? I missed the beginning.
Yes, this is still being recorded.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Betty. Can you I see only your face and your wonderful husband. How is the lecture? What do you think? Want your feedback?
Good.
And
Yes.
you learn something new?
Right, that's what Senior Citizens helps us with.
So is this Carol?
Yes.
Hi, Carol. Good morning.
Good morning.
So you're saying what the senior center helps you with? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah. Well, every day when we get back to normal, and everybody goes for lunch and they socialize and talk to each other, and it's just very helpful. And then I've always found that people that work there were very helpful and non-judgmental. So I like that. And I'm glad we have that, because I think when my father got old, he didn't have any of these resources. And it was very hard for him, even though he never admitted it. He isolated himself. So I'm so glad that we talk more nowadays.
Yeah, thank you, Carol, for sharing that. That's a great point, is that if you're seeing someone socially isolating themselves, you kind of notice how it impacts their health.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions for our special speakers today?
Any more?
I mentioned we didn't talk about, they do a walk with the doc. Dr. Gokula, if you want to talk about that.
In my practice, I was a professor at the university, so education is in my blood. You can always take somebody out of the university, but you cannot take the teacher out of the person. So I like to educate the community. And there is a not-for-profit organization in Columbus called Walk with a Doc. And I signed up for Toledo, and second Saturday of every month at Wildwood Park at Ward Pavilion, we meet at 11 o'clock, and I give a short talk about the health, and then we walk for a mile or two, and we kind of discuss about health issues. People ask me, and as I said, I've been taking care of older adults and geriatrics patients for 17 years. Now I'm into this new zone called lifestyle medicine, and I'm the only guy in Northwest Ohio who got board certified and focusing on disease reversal. So people have a lot of questions. Why should I give up meat? Why is it is it dangerous to eat eggs? How can I eat plants? What does plant-based diet do? So I keep answering all those questions. And we walk. And when you walk, I told you, you get the benefits. And then movement is medicine. It doesn't matter how much you move per day. Please move. If you're wheelchair bound, do this or kick your legs. It doesn't matter. Whatever can move in your body, please keep moving. And that's the purpose. I want the community to know. And that's why I started that walk with the doc. And I do another thing called, to address the stress, I do meditate with the doc on a Wednesday, second Wednesday of every month at 7:30. And then on a Monday evening, I do dine with a doc. So I'm going to teach people how to eat right. And because we as a society have moved the needle far off, and I want to kind of get back to the basics of what we were probably 200 years ago in our country and what we did. And now we moved away to processed food, eating a lot of refined carbs. And every day we eat meat, and you can see that a lot of older adults get admitted with diverticulitis. And that's because we don't eat fiber. So these are the things that I teach people during these sessions. Thanks, Stephanie, for reminding me. So I'm doing a lot of things to help educate, because it's a whole 360 degrees reality. And I'm practicing for the last few months. And I see the challenges that people believe systems, that it's only meat that has proteins. No, plants have proteins. That's why they stand erect. If they didn't have proteins, they would be falling off, So the proteins are the skeletal system for everything, including plants and animals, So that's what has reversed. Now I reverse diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol. You can prevent coronary disease. There's Dr. S.L. Stein in Cleveland Clinic, who actually reverses heart disease. If you have coronary stenosis, you can Google his name, S.L. Stein. He's the head of Cardiovascular Institute and Wellness at Cleveland Clinic. So all these fascinating things, because I like to prevent. I want your golden years to be having fun and not running around doctors asking for pills, or if you want to have sex, ask for Cialis, which is worthless, You can do that without doing asking for any pills. Plant-based diet has shown that side effect. It improves your erectile dysfunction. So that's why not do simple stuff?
You lose what function? Didn't hear you.
Erectile dysfunction.
Oh.
No, seriously, it's a side effect. They did a study and research. They didn't expect that. They were trying to reverse heart disease. There's a doctor called Dean Ornish who did that study. And then during that time, what happened was people started telling him, what else happened to you? And they started saying that, my sex life improved. So, why not take it without a pill and spending money? I'm all about trying to be inexpensive, resourceful, and do the best for yourself, because you control your health and your wealth, and not the healthcare system, nor the doctors,
2 questions. You said you do that walk the second Saturday of every month. Where do you meet? What pavilion?
Ward Pavilion.
How do you spell that?
WARD.
It's the Ward.
PAVI.
Yeah. The Ward.
Oh, W.
Yeah. The Ward Pavilion over at Wildwood Park.
Okay. And the second question was about the Dine with the Doc. How do you do that?
I mean, if you guys want it, I can share that. Daniel, it's not like a commercial thing. It's free for anybody.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
And I have a lady from Los Angeles, LA. She's doing that in the local parks, and it's a big hit. So she teaches people how to cook plant-based diet,
Yeah.
She's a physician and a lifestyle coach. So I wanted that as a service. So she does through the Zoom. You can sit at home and learn all that. And I started learning cooking too. I cook now. I cook my own food.
Nice. I'll get my husband in on that.
Never go wrong doing that,
Yeah, definitely interested in that Dine with the Doc thing too.
Yeah, because, when I went to Harvard for a CME course, that's where I learned. They have an Institute of Lifestyle Medicine, and they taught us what is called the SAD diet, the MAD diet, and the CRAP. You know what they are? The SAD diet is standard American diet. The MAD diet is the modern American diet. And the CRAP is calorie rich and processed. So that's what we do on a daily basis. 72% of Americans eat processed food on a daily basis. Processed food causes inflammation. And then inflammation leads to gut leakage. Gut leakage causes mental health issues. Very, very simple. You can go to YouTube and put gut-brain connection, and you'll see a lot of things pop up, and you start listening.
Can you say
There's
that
a doctor
again?
called Dr. Hyman, Mark Hyman, MARKHYMAN. He's the head of Functional Medicine Institute at Cleveland Clinic.
Thank you.
Because once you hear from these people, you understand that these are not ordinary people. It's like Cleveland Clinic supporting them to, because obviously, you know, Cleveland Clinic has cutting edge stuff in our area.
Well, I just want to say thank you for allowing me to come here and present and talk about what I do. I have to leave now because I actually have a client at 11 o'clock. So
Thank you. Me too. I have 11 o'clock patient. Thank you so much. It's a wonderful group. Greatly appreciate. And I'll email Daniel, Stephanie, if I send it to you, you'll send it to Daniel. I should have Daniel's.
I will do it. I'll connect the two of you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'll need it too. I'll send my PowerPoint too.
Perfect. Okay, I'll connect all of you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
you.
thank
Have
you,
a blessed
presenters.
day.